Now on the economic front, Seoul and Washington have been working to reach an agreement on tariffs, but the talks are deadlocked over key details of the $350 billion U.S. investment that Seoul pledged in July as part of a broader trade deal. For more on this, we're joined today by Professor Kim Yong-Jin, professor at Sogang Business School. Professor Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So, U.S. President Donald Trump recently said the $350 billion investment is an upfront payment and compared it to a deal made with Japan. And top officials here and analysts say it's impossible for Korea to pay this amount all at once in cash, as Trump suggests. So, what would be the most effective way to resolve the situation?
Well, as you mentioned, the U.S. President Trump asked, Korean government to give $350 billion to the U.S. upfront and endow a total control over the fund. It sounds like absurd, right? If Korea does it as Mr. President asked, it will face a serious hard currency problem, which is rightly expected by many experts. When it comes to the upfront investment and the control right of the fund, I don't think there would be a good solution for this issue because the interests of the two parties are totally different. However, there might be a solution if the U.S. moves different ways from the resolution with Japan. What I mean is that the issue will be resolved only when the U.S. government either allows the unlimited currency swap between Korean won and the U.S. dollar, or accept the Korean plan that consists of loan and loan guarantees with equity investment in the investment package. If Korean government decide to give subsidies to the damaged exporters by the Trump tariff rather than invest $350 billion in the United States, for let's say 10 years, there is nothing much the U.S. can do and to gain. In this case, they may want to increase the tariff more. However, the price increase in the exported goods will be transferred to the U.S. consumers, which most likely will not be accepted by the U.S. consumer.
Right, and Trump administration is trying to impose more tariffs because starting October 1st, Trump also said the United States will put higher tariffs on imported drugs, trucks, and kitchen cabinets. How are these new tariffs expected to affect Korean businesses?
Well, the policy that imposes huge tariff on those items, will be good for manufacturers, but really bad for their consumers, right? And Korean companies won't be affected that much. That's my hunch. The key items Korean companies export to the U.S. include automobiles, semiconductors, steel, petrochemicals, lesser degree food and cosmetics. The tariff will affect the companies in the UK and EU, including Sweden for furnitures, and Mexico and Canada for trucks. Even in the case of pharmaceuticals, the generic drugs will be exempted, and the companies which build or are going to build factories in the United States won't be affected. In sum, the additional tariff on the items won't affect the trade that much around the world and also in Korea.
I see. Speaking of automobiles, as you just mentioned, auto tariffs also remain a key issue. So Japanese and European cars face a 15% tariff in the United States, whereas Korean cars still face 25%. How should Seoul work on negotiations to minimize this impact on Korean car makers?
Well, so absolutely, that's really bad. While Japanese and European car makers, pay 15% tariff, but Korean car makers have to pay 25% of tariff. That's really bad, and a competitive advantage in terms of price-wise, Korean companies are in bad side. But it is not simply the issue of car makers who are tariff on cars. We need to look at it from a little bit larger perspective or view. The deal might be deeply related to the resolution of how the $350 billion investment would be managed and would be, cleared. When the two allies, U.S., Korea, could reach an agreement with a reasonable plan for it, then subsequently the negotiations on the tariff on imported cars and the part from Korea will be finalized. So I think, now at the moment we have to, take a look and let's see what will be happening. Probably before the APEC meeting, we might have some solutions.
I see, but what's making it worse is that the Korean won hit its lowest level in 4 months against the US dollar. Do you expect this trend to continue, and how might this affect trade negotiations in the future?
Well, the volatility will be kept, for a while, before the Korea and U.S., reach the agreement about the $350 billion, investment. So basically, at the moment, lots of, experts and practitioners are concerned and worried about the request for the upfront of the President Trump. Basically, our, foreign reserve, Korean foreign reserve is only like 410 like a billion US dollars. If out of $410 billion, if you just give $350 billion to the US, absolutely 100% will meet or will face the hard currency crisis again. So that, absolutely worrisome, condition. But so that, the volatility in the foreign exchange market for Korean won and US dollars will be, held for a while. But I think, it will be settled down before the APEC meetings.
I see. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. All right, Professor Kim, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.